So today we're going to talk about how one super simple habit is directly linked to what we think of as attractiveness. And here's a hint. It's got nothing to do with your DNA or how much money you have. Okay, so let's just start with this big question. Is attractiveness just, the luck of the draw, something you either have or you don't, or is it more like a skill, something you can actually practice and get better at?
Well, the answer we're digging into today is, honestly, it's pretty surprising. The idea is that the single most powerful habit for becoming more attractive isn't about fancy clothes or some complicated routine. It's just looking in the mirror. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds kind of vain, right? But let's get into the psychology of why this actually works.
Right. So this isn't about admiring yourself for hours. It's all about a really powerful psychological trigger that connects the simple act of looking at your own reflection with how other people actually see you. And it all boils down to this one key idea: public self-consciousness. And what's so interesting is that this flips the script on what self-conscious means. We usually think of it as a bad thing, right? But here, it's actually a good thing. It's just being aware of how you're coming across to everyone else. So what happens is you get this incredible positive feedback loop going. You look in the mirror more often, and you start to develop that awareness. And that awareness, well, it lets you be more intentional, more thoughtful about how you present yourself. And over time, that's what people notice. That's what they see as attractiveness. It's a skill you practice, not something that just happens.
Okay, but what about the flip side? What happens if you do the exact opposite? If you avoid mirrors and just stop paying attention? Well, it turns out the consequences are actually pretty deep.
It's wild, but experiments have actually shown this really concerning downward spiral. When people stop looking in mirrors, the first thing that happens is they just become indifferent to how they look. But it doesn't stop there. That feeling actually starts to spread to the people around them, and it all leads to this state of, dullness and low energy, which is basically the exact opposite of what we find attractive. All right, so the theory makes sense, but what does this awareness actually look like out in the real world? Let's talk about some real results.
I love this quote from the source material. Think about it. Why on earth would a top salesperson, someone whose entire job is about connecting with people, make a mirror a critical part of their toolkit? Well, it's because they understand their appearance is a huge part of their strategy.
And here is the absolute key. It is not about looking perfect. Not at all. It's about looking appropriate. Your appearance is sending a signal, a message. And making sure that's the right message for the person you're meeting, that is a basic form of respect.
Okay, check out this story. It's a perfect example. There was an ad agency exec who always wore a super formal suit to meet clients. He thought it looked professional, but it was actually creating distance, putting up a wall. So he switched to more casual, creative clothes that actually fit his industry. And guess what? Clients started to see him as more credible. He built trust, and his contracts went up. His clothes weren't just clothes, they were a communication tool.
Which brings us to the real takeaway here. This whole practice, it's not really about your shirt or your hair, it's about something way bigger.
At the end of the day, using a mirror to check in on your appearance isn't about vanity. It is 100% about awareness. It's about intentionally managing the signals you're sending out so you can build better connections with people. It just shows them you care enough to be present.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Maybe it's that attractiveness isn't something you're just born with. It's a habit you can choose to practice. And the simplest, most powerful tool for that practice might just be hanging on your wall. The real question is, what message do you want to send?